Today, we are going to go over the 2022 film, Beast. Before we begin, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. The story opens in an African reserve forest, where a band of poachers silently moves through the darkness, armed with torches and guns tracking lions. They come across a pride feasting on a dead zebra, and immediately begin firing. While the lions try to escape, most of them are killed. The poachers start loading the carcasses into their truck when they suddenly hear a deep growl. A furious and aggressive male lion emerges from the group. The poachers attempt to kill it, but the lion retaliates, hunting them down one by one, ripping their flesh apart and killing them without mercy. The scene then shifts to Dr. Nate Samuels and his teenage daughters May and Nora as they fly to Africa for a vacation. Nate's wife recently passed away, and he is taking his daughters to visit her native village. After they land, Nate asks the girls what they think about Africa, and they comment on the heat. They wait at a tea stall for their ride until Nate's friend Martin arrives and drives them to the village where Nate's wife grew up. May and Nora are excited to explore the village and visit Martin's house. Martin, who now lives alone after his girlfriend left, has a home that is slightly dusty but cozy. May spots photographs taken by her mother displayed on the walls and admires their beauty, particularly a picture of her standing beneath a tree. Being passionate about photography herself, May shows Martin some of her own pictures, which he appreciates. Nate compliments her work, prompting May to point out that he has never done so before, leaving Nate momentarily speechless. May harbors resentment toward Nate for not being present when their mother passed away, blaming him for her death. Hoping to reconnect with May, Nate has arranged this trip. As the sun rises the following day, Martin contacts his colleague BIE over the radio, instructing him to meet them at the valley near the old schoolhouse. Martin tells the group that he is taking them on an exclusive tour inside a restricted area to witness incredible wildlife. May and Nora are excited as they set off in the car. During the ride, they engage in lighthearted conversations, capturing numerous photos of wildlife along the way. Upon reaching the valley, they meet BIE, who is preparing a tranquilizer rifle for emergencies. They soon spot a pride of lions lounging on some rocks. BIE explains that Martin rescued these lions as cubs and raised them. May and Nora are thrilled at the sight. Martin shares insights about lion behavior, explaining that they live in prides where the lionesses hunt while the males protect their territory. When Nora inquires about what they guard against, Martin explains that male lions defend their pride from rival lions and other predators. Each pride has a distinct territory. As Martin approaches the lions, he notices a wound on one of the lioness's paws and suspects that poachers may have attacked the pride the previous night. He instructs BIE to summon a veterinarian. When Nate asks what's happening, Martin mentions poachers and decides to take them to a nearby village. En route, Nate questions why poachers target lions, and Martin explains that their bones and teeth are highly sought after. Upon arriving at the village, Martin is horrified to find every villager dead, their bodies covered in wounds and blood staining the ground. Nate tells his daughters to stay outside while he and Martin search for survivors, but they find none. Martin deduces that a lion was responsible for the massacre and is likely still in the area, given how fresh the blood is. Nate steps back outside and realizes that Nora is missing. He turns to May, who insists that Nora was just there moments ago. As they frantically call out for her, their panic intensifies when there is no response. They continue searching until they finally hear her scream. Nate rushes to her and finds her paralyzed with fear after stumbling upon a dead girl. He reassures her before ushering everyone back into the car. As Martin drives, he attempts to call for help over the radio, but gets no response. Suddenly, a wounded man stumbles onto the road. Martin stops the car and asks what happened. The man, barely able to speak, warns them about the lion. Meanwhile, Martin ventures into the forest with his rifle, tracking the predator. Near a water stream, he hears a menacing growl. The rogue lion ambushes him and launches an attack. Back on the road, Nate tries to tend to the injured man, but he succumbs to his wounds. Determined to find out what happened, Nate steps into the forest and spots the lion. He sprints back to the car, jumps inside, and slams the door shut just as the lion charges at him. The beast collides with the vehicle, and although the car's metal frame holds up, the lion smashes through the windows and climbs onto the roof. May and Nora scream in terror, but Nate urges them to remain calm, The lion then lunges through a window, sinking its teeth into Nate's leg. He desperately kicks it away, but it continues to drag him out. May, acting fast, starts the engine and accelerates, forcing the lion to release Nate. However, she loses control, sending the car crashing into a tree, stalling the engine. Nate reassures his daughters while attempting to restart the car, but the engine remains dead. Nora anxiously states that they are trapped, but Nate comforts her, assuring her that help will come. Suddenly Martin's voice crackles over the walkie-talkie. He reveals that his legs are severely injured and asks if the girls are okay. Nate asks how to help, and Martin instructs him to use a heated knife to cauterize the wound to stop the bleeding. Gritting his teeth through unbearable pain, Martin follows the instructions and lets out a scream. Nate tells Martin they are nearby and will rescue him, but Martin spots the lion and grimly states that he won't make it. May suggests using the tranquilizer rifle to subdue the lion, and Nate agrees. However, Martin insists they stay in the car as the lion seems to have wandered off. Nate climbs onto the car's roof, using the rifle's scope to scan for the lion. The girls spot the predator majestically perched on a rock. May, determined to save Martin, dashes toward him. Nate attempts to shoot, but misses. The lion charges at Nate, who falls and scrambles under the car for safety. The beast relentlessly tries to claw its way to him while Nora watches in terror. May reaches Martin and helps him to his feet with the aid of a stick. The lion remains persistent in attacking Nate, but Nora acts swiftly, grabbing a tranquilizer from the kit and injecting it into the lion's hindquarters. The lion gradually loses strength and retreats. May and Martin return, and Nate explains that Nora successfully sedated the beast. He stitches up Martin's wound, and Martin warns that the tranquilizer will only last for a few hours before the lion wakes up. As darkness falls, May tries to use the radio to call for help, but gets no response. Nate reassures them, but tensions rise as May accuses him of failing their mother, leading to an argument that Nora breaks up. Martin eventually wakes up, and Nate offers him water, asking why the lion is behaving this way. Martin theorizes that it is seeking revenge on the poachers who slaughtered its pride, killing out of vengeance rather than for food. Suddenly, a group of poachers arrives in a truck. Nate asks for a ride, but they recognize Martin as an anti-poacher and turn against him, dragging Nora out of the car. Before they can harm her, the lion returns and starts attacking them one by one. The poachers fight back but are brutally torn apart. As dawn breaks, Nate rushes May and Nora to the old schoolhouse. The rogue lion appears once again. The girls scream as Nate rushes to them, shooting at the lion and telling them to take cover. He then engages in a desperate knife fight, leading the lion toward another pride. The rogue lion lunges at Nate, but two male lions from Martin's pride intervene, overpowering and killing it. Nate collapses, unconscious. BIE arrives and rushes him to a hospital. Hours later, Nate wakes up to find May and Nora by his side, comforting him. He tells them how much he loves them. Later, they visit the same tree where Nate's wife had once taken a photo and capture a new memory together. That's how the movie concludes.